Ah, the ubiquitous Yamaha XS650. I've had a lot of these. A lot of these have passed through this way. Used to be very popular. They still are popular, but they're getting a bit good, nice, clean stock ones are getting thin on the ground. Looked at Craigslist today. I found about 10 or 12 locally within about 100 miles, and all of them, with the exception of one, were bobbers, choppers, rat rods. What did somebody call it? A lane splitter. Not entirely sure what a lane splitter is. Anyway, this isn't one of those. I read somewhere that Yamaha sold 440,000 of these, and they went from 71 to 83. I don't think it was on the internet, it was in a magazine, so it's got a chance of actually being true. So, I think the earliest is 71, and they came in blue and gold and green, I think. So maybe very, very first year didn't have electric start. 650 engine, parallel twin. Some people called it the Japanese Bonneville. Wonderfully solid motor. And then and thinking about, so they stayed kind of the same, and then 74, 75, I think they might have called it the TX650, and the 75 had a funny, different set of pipes in it. Nice set of pipes, actually, made a nice whistling noise, had one of those. And then they got to like the 76, 77, I think 78, what I call the Roadster, and I think some people might call it the Standard, but it's kind of like the kind of teardrop tank, straight pipes and stuff like that. And for my money, they're the nicest of the 650s. I had a nice purple one of those, about 10 or 12 years ago. And then by 78, by 79, they turned into this kind of thing, or the kind of like the custom. So there was the Midnight Special, the Heritage Special, maybe not the Midnight Special, the Heritage Special, the US Custom. That might have been a UK model, but they had the the stepped seat, that funny grab rail at the back. You see the 16-inch rear wheel, and then the 19-inch front wheel with 8 million spokes in it. And actually, if you get one of the ones with the cast wheels, and again, cast wheels are very popular on a lot of these. Man, those things are heavy. They are heavy cast wheels. So anyway, makes 45, 50 horsepower. It does nearly 100, good on gas, 60 miles to the gallon. Just a good all-round motorcycle. Again, legendary almost. Because they're a favourite amongst flat trackers. They're a favourite amongst people who want a cafe race and bobbers. And I read somewhere somebody called the cafe racer the mullet of the motorcycle world, and I'm not sure I agree with that, but on the other hand, there are some really horrible cafe racers out there that you'll see, and some people make a really dog's dinner of stuff. So what's this? This is a 1982, or it might be 83 Heritage Special, so this is just about the last iteration. It came standard with electronic ignition. It's got those little upswept pipes. Like I said, we talked about the wheels. It's got reasonable brakes. I mean, the whole plot's pretty decent. The best upgrade you can do on a stock one of these is sort the suspension out. So put some decent shocks, and then maybe some heavier springs, stiffer oil, and do a bit of the valving. There's something called the Minton mods, M-I-N-T-O-N, Minton mods, which was somebody who did some stuff to XS650 in the 70s or 80s, like a flat tracker, and the fork revalving stuff is quite interesting and quite good. But let's talk about this one here. So again, this is about as late a model as you will get. It's nice and clean. It's even got the reflectors on it. I got it off a guy. I got it from a guy in Longmont who bought it. This guy flips houses, and it was in the house that he got. So he went through did the legwork of getting the title, and then I bought it off him. It has some highway pegs on it, which I left on it. The chrome's nice on it. It's done 16,000 miles, and I just had my mate Mitch, go through the carbs. So if I press this button here, lovely. So what should an XS650 do? It should idle at like 1,000 RPM, just kind of like this. Although this might die because it's cold. They should go very easy off the throttle. All the usual stuff. So like I said, if you get rid of the sponginess of the suspension back and front, which I did on one. I had one. I had the frame. No, it wasn't that one I had it done on. But anyway, I replaced the mag wheels with wire ones. I did the forks. I put some decent shocks on the back. Put a big set of carbs in, like 36mm Makunis or something like that. And just basically took off all the excess crap. And I'll tell you what, that thing ran really nice. It was tight. You could lay that thing sideways. I mean, it really was. And I think I blagged a friend of mine worked in a motorcycle scrapyard, and you know, 15 years ago when I moved to Loveland, Colorado, within a 20-mile radius there were like 6 or 7 motorcycle scrapyards, and now there's like none. So I remember a friend of mine bought a whole scrapyard, and he said, we're going to scrap a load of this and we're selling a lot, to, if you want anything, come and get it. So I went and I got like 5 or 6 sets of spoke wheels for XS650s and stuff like that. So, you know, yeah, magnificent bike, really. I mean, a true classic. The possibilities are absolutely endless with these things. So, you know, enormous amount of information on the web, out there, to what to do with them. A company called Mike's XS built a whole pile of spurious aftermarket parts, so you can get headlights, you can get turn signals, you can probably get fenders, you can get exhaust systems, you can get you know, the tube that goes inside the swing arm, you can get shocks, you can get chain guards, you can get absolutely everything for these seats at a reasonable price. The other thing is, they're a tuner's delight. You can go to town on these things and do whatever you want. You can hog them out to about 1000 cc. You can put big bores, you can put long cranks in them, you can get monster carburetors for them, you can get 2-into-1s, you can get high pipes, you can get low pipes. Omar's street trackers, take a look at that. Kenny Roberts did a street tracker, one of these in the 70s, and so you can use that as a model. You can, I think, I don't know if you still get them, but certainly you could get like aftermarket frames for these things. Say you can tune these up, and I've got like one that's like 840, maybe 840 or 8cc in the basement that's not seen the light of day for years. I kind of built it, never finished it. You know how that goes, and then it's still sat there. But there used to be a company in the UK called Halco Tuning, run by, I think it was Tony Hall, you know, who specialised in these. Unfortunately, he died. I don't know if anybody took it over. But again, like you say, you can go to town on these things. You can get big valves, you can get hot cams, you can get lots of head work done. You can get long cranks. I think I've already said that. You can probably get bigger clutches. You know, you can blank off the starter. You know, faults on these? Well, not that many really, but one that's really popular is that if the starter makes this horrible grinding noise, it's because they have this like throw-out gear that goes out and engages, and they just kind of wear. But this one actually doesn't. I'll try it again, but this one, give it a bit of choke this time, but this one doesn't really suffer from that malaise. And again, they should just idle. They should just not idle. Nice and easy, incredibly easy to work on, incredibly good to get parts from. You know, just an all-round, it is a classic bike. And bearing in mind some of the junk that Yamaha were making in the 70s, forget the two-strokes. The two-strokes were good, they were sorted. There's some nice two-strokes in the 70s, but you know, for every XS650 there's the TX750, and for anybody who knows what that was, and funnily enough, there's one for sale here in Loveland, Colorado, May 2015. Somebody's asking $2,400 for this thing, and they said it's a bit difficult to start. The TX750, what a nightmare. Somebody told me, who was a Yamaha mechanic, that it had problems like frothing the oil with the crank or something like this, and so it would start so you get air in the oil, and then it would screw up the head. And he said there was a retrofit kit available, which was essentially a whole top end and a crankshaft and a deep sump and some other stuff. And he said the retrofit kit was so heavy you could hardly pick the bloody box up. I can believe that. So yeah, the TX750, what a pile of shit, you know. And then they came up with the XS650, the 8-valve twin. There's one of my videos covers one of those, but again, a real blind alley. You know, the XS750 and 850, oh dear, what faceless. You know, they have very little value. You know, people aren't buying them. They're not that collectible, I guess you say. But they got that funny 3-cylinder engine with the cam chain on one side, and it just doesn't look good. These have this beautiful, say, vertical parallel twin. I think they may have gone through 2 or 3 different styles of carburetors on these as well. You know, but not to matter, pretty much anything works. And like I say, I had some Mikuni 36s, it might have been 34s, and they ran really well on that bike. So, you know, this, like I said, this really was an eagle amongst crows for some of the Yamaha 4-strokes. And you could make a valid argument that Yamaha didn't really get 4-strokes right until they brought out the FJ1100 and the FZ750. You know, like I said, they got this, but they had the XJ550, 650, 750 Seeker, which were okay, you know. I mean, they sold a lot of them. A friend of mine's a mechanic, but they made them horrible B twins as well, the XV920 or the XV1000. But we're not talking about those. We're talking about the XS650. So, like I said, buying guide. Well, if the electric start makes that horrible grinding noise, it's not a surprise. Shouldn't smoke. Should idle nicely. Should pick up nice off the throttle, and should just ride really nice. Really. Like I said, the suspension's bound to be tired. They don't have particular problems with the charging systems. You know, I'm just not aware of a huge amount of problem with these. But say a favourite amongst the cafe racer brat bobber crowd. So I'm going to ask £3 for this thing. In fact, I'm going to ask more than £3 for it. I'm going to ask $3,200, and see, you know, get my tackle out and see what bites, as Paul Calf used to say. Because I say, they just, if you want a nice stock one, they're just not around anymore. Say some of the ones had they went back to spoke wheel in '82, '83. Some of the earlier ones are around that era. Have the 16-inch mag wheel on the back and the 19 on the front. And again, you can get a street tracker kit where somebody will take a 19-inch front wheel and they do this conversion, so you can run a front wheel on the back. And again, 20 years ago, you know, or 15 years ago, you'd think that you'd throw those cast wheels away. And now that, you know, a good 19-inch cast wheel can go for $100. And in actual fact, when I left the UK back in 2000, Lammy, a mate of mine who bought and sold stuff, I gave him a pair of RD 250 wheels, you know, mag wheels, and a friend of mine saw him at a swap meet about 2 years later, and he's like, "Hey up, Lammy, still carting that pair of wheels around?" He's like, "Fucking things, these are really fucking heavy." Apologies, Lammy, if you're looking at this. I'm sure you. It was good to see you the other week, by the way, mate, and I'm sure you managed to get rid of them. So anyway, you know, again, what do you look at one of these? Well, look, make sure the headlights are round. I know it sounds really stupid, but when they fall over, it bangs the turn signals, and then the headlight shell gets distorted. You know, again, no specific problems, I don't think, with the instrumentation. Although the fascia on the inside of the rev counter on this one has kind of, I know, it's just kind of gone funny. It's got that yellow shite on the inside of it that I know that might have been where it was stored. Just no horrible noises from the engine. Sometimes they have a bit of play in the swing arm as well. You know, again, not hugely. Make sure the head bearings aren't notchy either. This head like they aren't on this one. But for the most part, you know, you just can't go wrong with one of these. You can't go wrong with one of these. And like I said, a lot of these have been through. Oh, there's my neighbour who's got divorced. He's off in his U-Haul. Oh, poor guy. A lot of these have been through my hands, probably like 15 or 20 of them. Even bought one from a Yorkshireman who lived in South Denver, and he's like, "Oh, it should run all right." I got it home, got it started. Man, that thing rattled its tits off. Really did have a lot of rattle. But you know what? That big bolt underneath the carburetors is a manual chain tensioner, and I just adjusted the cam chain, and it all went away. So again, you know, not really. I've just rambled on a little bit here. Not really too much to say about these, but they're just a good, honest stock motorcycle. And if you just want something to pop to the shops on it, you could tour on this. You could do 70, 80, 90 mile an hour on it, maybe. You know, decent tyres and firm up the suspension, and it'll ride really nice. And like I say, spare parts availability excellent. Aftermarket tune-up parts excellent. You know, cafe tank seat units. You know, you can get everything for this thing. And there's no doubt stuff out there where people have got big motors and mag wheels and upside down forks and all that kind of nice stuff. You know, and then there's a lot of stock ones out there still, I guess. And like I say, for my money, that's kind of purple 78, let's call it the Roadster or Standard, or it might be an XS650D. They came in purple and they came in blue, and they're just a nice looking bike. And for me, they have the edge on this. Because one thing I never did get, is these pull back handlebars. So your hands aren't kind of like that. They're kind of like that. It doesn't work for me. Obviously worked for the whole nation of America. You know, because America, I won't say it's unique, but you know, you had the XS 1100 Midnight Special and probably the XJ650 and 750. You know, had these kind of like cruiser kind of, I won't say Harley clone, but you know, like this, the step seat, the swept back handlebars, the slanted tank, and that. You know, we didn't get so much of that in the UK. XS 11s were more the standard and stuff like that. So anyway, like I said, I'll quit rambling now. Some nice stuff. sitting right here, and there's nothing new coming to the garage at the moment. The TS185 has gone, sold to a nice young lady, and the CX500 Turbo has been registered and is now on the road. And if it hadn't been pissing down for the last week and a half, I would have been riding the thing to work. Oh, one thing on this, somebody sawed off the subframe and then welded it back on rather poorly, so it's hard to get the seat off. The seat catch doesn't work very well, but that's okay. Like I said, you know, that's nothing too much to worry about. And so this will be for sale on Craigslist in Denver in about 45 minutes. Let's go see the Turbo. Not a lot going on in the garage today. I talked to a guy, actually, Mitch, who just sorted the carbs out on that, because it did have some running problems. Turned out to be block pilot jets, which somehow I overlooked. He got a really nice VF1000F in there, and I was like, you know what, have a chat with that bloke. If you want to trade it across for a Turbo, I'll do that, because I like the Turbo, but I love that VF1000. It's a really nice bike. There's something else as well. Jeep Cherokee 1999, $3,000. Just if you go on, it's like one of the top 10 cars you can't kill, up there with like the Mercedes diesel and stuff like that. But just for $3,000 you can go anywhere, you can do anything, pull the trailer, use the hitch carrier, you know, it's really good. But anyway, let's say we're not really talking about that here either. We're talking about this little gem, and I'm going to call it a gem. Truly, literally in every sense of the world, a classic Japanese motorcycle, and a motorcycle in the true spirit of the word, meaning, you know, it smells, it rides, you know, sometimes they have the occasional leak, but just, you know, a good engine in a relatively decent chassis, just a good all-round bike. And I'm saying, if you get one of these just for blasting around, you're not likely to be disappointed. And I'll say the thing that I usually say as well: you get one of these, you look after it, you don't smash it up or do anything really horrible, you know, paint job or anything like that, you'll be able to easily sell it for what you pay for it, unless you pay a lot of money for it, like when you buy things off me.